Today we're going to explore Leonardo AI's image creation / image generation feature, so we can start learning how to create some really excellent looking AI art. So when you're logged into Leonardo AI, there's two ways you can go about getting into the image generator. There's image creation here on the home page, or image generation here on the left menu. So I'm going to click on that. And now we're in the image generation interface. So you've got a few options here on the left, our prompt bar at the top here, and our points at the top. Now I've got a lot here because I'm using a premium account, but if I come up here and type in a prompt, I have a man dressed in a business suit meditating, which is a pretty simple prompt, nothing too crazy. And I can go through and change some of these options here. However, I'm not going to worry about that right now because we don't actually need to change anything if we don't want to. We can come straight in, type in a prompt, hit generate, and you can see here it's going to cost us 13 tokens. If you have a free account, you get 150 tokens a day, or you can move up to a premium account if you need more. But I'm going to hit generate. You see here we have 4 images. So now if we want to change a few things, we're going to look at some of our simple settings. So I'm not going to worry about the preset or the preset style right now. We're going to look mainly at these settings down here. The first thing I want to look at is we're going to change our aspect ratio. At the moment, we got a square image. What if we needed something for a screenshot or a YouTube thumbnail? Go 16:9 and it will be more of a rectangular shape. I can also go to more and I can slide this till I get something a little bit more suitable. But I'm actually going to go for a 9:16, just kind of like a TV turned on its side. I can choose any of these here as well. I'm going to hit close. I want this image to be quite large. Now if you're on the free plan, you can't, large is a premium cost, but I'm going to choose large for this image. But instead of generating 4, I'm only going to generate 3 images. And at the moment, the contrast is high. I'm going to hit generate. So now we have these much taller images. They're a bit higher resolution. And if I want to click, I can review this image and I can do a little bit more with it, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit. Right now, I'm going to close on that because I want to also try a few different settings. For example, if we take this image here, zoom in, it looks pretty good. And this was using the fast generation mode. If we have premium, we can also switch to quality. I'm going to actually generate with the quality setting turned on to see the difference in quality that we get. So quality is actually a feature that was formerly known as alchemy. So you can see here, these images, while they're not bad, scroll through, the level of detail is not quite as sort of grabbing as some of these images. You can see down to the skin texture. It's a bit harder to see, but it's there. The skin texture itself is really quite good. And if I pop, say, 2 of these images side by side that look fairly similar, you can kind of see the difference there. But moving on, we also can change from quality and we can change the contrast as well. These have all been high contrast. So if I decide I want to try medium and low, let's try generating those so we can check the difference there also. I'm also going to change over to low and generate as well. So we have here some low contrast images, some medium contrast images, and high contrast images. Now I'm going to take some of these again, place them side by side, and while I don't think there's a huge difference, it is still something worth mentioning and pretty handy to use. So before we move on from there, I also want to mention there is a private mode. So again, this is a premium feature. This means that people won't be able to see your generations unless you actually logged into your account. So they're private from the community feed and you can hide them from there. There's also some advanced settings. I don't want to go into those just yet. We will touch on those a little bit later. But what I want to touch on now is, so these photos are all pretty good. But what if I decided, for one, I want the contrast to be high again. But what if I decided I wanted something very specific? What if I wanted a guy with red hair? What if I wanted him in a certain location? We need to look at how to improve our prompt if we need to take more control over these details. So at the moment, we just have the subject and we're letting Leonardo AI make up the rest. So what we need to do is consider describing the subject with a bit more detail. So I've got a bit more detail about the subject. He has red hair, very thin build. But what about the location? He's now in front of a Buddhist temple. We've got the subject, we've got some details, and then we have the location. But we also want to describe things like lighting and the style of image we're after. Now, at the moment, I'm using Cinematic Keynote. It's more of a photograph style. I'm going to touch on styles in a minute, but we do want to pop a style into our prompt as well. But I'm going to start with the lighting. So I'm going to say golden hour lighting. I can even say cinematic lighting. I could have one or the other or both in this instance. And the style of photo I'm going to go for, a professional photo shot in 35mm film. So it comes down to your vocabulary. You need to describe what's in the image, the details of that, which is the subject, and then obviously the actual environment itself, the lighting of the scene, and then the style. Could be a photo, could be a drawing, could be 3D or anime. We want to put that style in there. Now, if you do want to change styles, there's a bit more to it. We're going to get into that soon. So essentially, I've got my images here for reference. I've added a lot more detail in here. I'm going to hit generate and see how much closer to the mark our image can be to what we were looking for. So you can see here our image is now much closer to what we were after. We've got a little bit of golden hour, the guy has red hair, and it's in front of a Buddhist temple. So improving your prompt is a big part of getting more control over your images. But if this image isn't big enough, and the image size for this is 1344 by 2392 pixels, I can zoom in. What if I want to make it bigger? I can click on it, and over here, there's the Alchemy Upscaler, or before I even bring it up, I can click here, More Image Upscalers. I've got Alchemy Smooth Upscale, and I can click that, and it will upscale that image. Now, this image has been enlarged to 2302 by 4098 pixels. So a little bit bigger than before, add a little bit of detail, and it's pretty handy. But this is a premium feature. If you really want to upscale this with the free account, what you need to do is actually leave the image generator altogether and head down to Universal Upscaler. Now, I'm going to go more in depth on this in the future with another video, but for now, all I need to do is go to Select from Recent Images. I'll click Show More since it isn't showing up. I'll go to My Generations or Your Generations. Click on the image I want and hit Confirm. Now, there's 110 points to upscale this image because it's already pretty big at 1344 by 2394. But I can resize it by 2 times, bringing it up to 2688 by 47084, so it's a little bit bigger. There's a few different upscaler types. Since this is a little bit more of a cinematic image, I'll use the cinematic style. The creativity strength, if I crank that right up, it's going to regenerate a lot of details in that image and change it a lot. This can be a desirable effect for some things, but I'm actually going to bring it down to just under at 4 because it keeps it pretty much about the same. If I want to give it a prompt, I can just simply copy my prompt, but I'm going to leave it as it is and click Upscale. And now my image has been upscaled. Before I actually go ahead and download it, I can zoom in, use the slider to check the difference. And you can see how it's actually been able to enhance the skin details. The image has changed slightly, but it's still basically the same image. So it's done a really amazing job of bringing that up to the next level. But if you want to take it any further, you're going to need an external upscaler, something like Topaz Gigapixel, if you really need to boost it up to a different level. Or you can simply download this image, re-upload it in there, and it may or may not upscale it again, but it's going to cost you a lot more points. For now, I can download this image, and this is our upscaled image. The detail on the skin, everything looks pretty amazing, and it's a pretty high resolution image, but obviously if you need to take it to the next level, you might need to use an external tool, but very cool for AI art. And it shows just how far AI art has come in the last 2 years. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper in this video, but for now, you know how to create a basic image. You understand the basic options, and you can get started by improving your prompt and creating some cool images. But what if we want to change the style? What if we want to dig deeper on some more of these options? Well, let's go straight back into the image generator and take a look. So we're here under image generation, and you can see we have our photo here. However, what we're going to do, where it says professional photo shot in 35mm film, I'm going to change that to a different style. I've changed it to a video game 3D render using Unreal Engine. I haven't changed my presets, and I want to demonstrate this will actually probably not look too bad, but let's generate and see what we get. So the style does look a bit more video gamey, but it still looks like a photograph. And one thing I want to touch on quickly is this particular preset turns on photoreal, which makes all the images look photorealistic. So I'm going to come down under advanced settings. We're going to dive into that a bit deeper later. I'm going to turn photoreal off. And then we're going to generate again. Now things are looking a little bit more 3D, but they still have a bit of a photo style to them. So why can't we steer this with our prompt? The answer is the preset. Certain presets are really directed at certain styles. At the moment, we're using Cinematic Kino, and there's a preset style here. We are using cinematic, we can choose bokeh, dynamic, but these are all photography-based imagery. So what happens now, if I go to Cinematic Kino, I can choose a different preset. There's lifelike vision, stock photography, Leonardo Lightning, or something like Phoenix. Phoenix is a foundational model which has been released recently and is a little bit more flexible. So I'm going to choose Phoenix, close that down. They also have a prompt enhance. We're going to leave that off and test that out in a little bit. But under preset style dynamic, now we can choose 3D render. So now we have this video game 3D render using Unreal Engine, Leonardo Phoenix using the 3D render preset style. So choosing a preset is kind of like choosing a particular style, and then under the preset style, you can have a sub-style of that, if that makes sense. And we can try out some of these as we go. So I'm going to just hit generate. So now what we have is a definite 3D style image. So we do need to consider the preset and preset style when creating images with Leonardo AI. But keeping the same prompt, moving from 3D render, if we change to something else, such as Moody, we're using Leonardo Phoenix. So with the different preset, which is using a different model of Stable Diffusion, sometimes we can still get some pretty good results. So let's hit generate. Now these images are still a little 3D looking, are still a little photographic, but more of a moody look. But what happens if we decide that we're not really happy with our prompting skills? I mean, for one, over here, if you click on these little star icons, you can choose a random prompt or improved prompt. But when using Leonardo Phoenix, you noticed before we turned off prompt enhance. I'm going to put this on automatic and let the Leonardo Phoenix prompt enhance see if it can improve our image by improving our prompt. Let's generate again. And you can see here, it's changed that prompt. A bespectacled, slender man with vibrant red hair. It's completely changed the prompt from what we have up here. And the images we've gotten are much more interesting. This one here, I think, looks very vibrant. Still has that 3D animation look. But we're here to talk about changing style. So you can see how the style of the image is altered a little bit. We've been able to improve the image. I'm going to leave this off because if I change video game 3D render to anime style cartoon and hit generate, we got our images, but again, they're not anime style. And this is just me trying to further emphasize the fact that we're using Leonardo Phoenix. If we want to create anime style, we need to go with anime style. If you find any of these styles align exactly with what you're after, choose that preset. And if you find that nothing here really does add up or sort of meet with what you're after, choose the one that is closest and then try to use your prompt and maybe some of the preset styles to sort of further steer it in the right direction. Now, if I go to anime this time, there's anime general preset, there's anime background, all these different anime styles. I'm going to go anime screen cap, so it looks like something taken out of an actual TV show. Contrast is high, quality is high. Change it to 16:9, which is more of a TV style sort of like aspect ratio. 2 images. And now we can work on creating our anime style image. And check it out, we have our anime style image. This is very much spot on and matches exactly what our prompt described. But we've gone over the presets. You got the presets and the preset style. I recommend exploring, playing with those to see what results you can get, but there's actually another step. I have here different elements, but the anime style probably isn't the best to experiment with these, so I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to come here and hit new random prompt. So this is a pretty long prompt. Be interesting to see what it gets us. Let's change our preset. I'm going to go back to Cinematic Keynote because I really like the photorealism it sort of brings. Make sure we have photoreal turned on. That's good. And now let's generate to see what this random prompt gives us. And check out this image. It's kind of like an ethereal Skeletor-inspired image, which is pretty cool, all from our random prompt. So the other thing too is now we've got our image, we sort of know what this prompt tends to give us. But now, when I come up here, for one, there's image guidance. Now, this is a video of its own, and I will be going through this afterwards, but essentially it allows you to upload an image for style reference, for character reference, or content reference to create certain types of images. Trying to fit all this into this video is a bit much, so I'm going to do it's basically going to use its own video. But we're going to come down here to elements, and I really like the idea of glitch art, so I'm going to add glitch art to this image. And you see we have this element. So if I were to dial it back, I can go negative, which obviously means it won't have any impact. I'm going to bring it up to about 1.1 because I want to add some VHS style glitches to the style. Now you're probably wondering what the difference is between a preset and an element. The preset is the style in which the image is rendered in, but elements can kind of be mixed in. It's kind of like taking the preset is like, say, some purple potion, and the element is you're throwing a little bit of a glow-in-the-dark green into the pot, mixing it in there to see what kind of results you can get. So the element allows us to kind of mix styles together. So now if I hit generate, the images we get are incredibly glitchy. So it looks like we've turned that value up a little too high. But like I've said in a previous video, when you're creating AI art, it's very rare you're going to get what you want on the first try. So we'll leave this here as a bit of a demonstration. I'll come back to this element. I'm going to bring it back to about 0.4. See how we've added some of those glitch colors into the image. It's given us something a little bit different. But what if we also want to add something else? I can continue to add elements, remove, and that kind of thing. I click up here, and where it says elements, I have white ethereal, modern analog photography, psychedelic art, fiery flames. If I add in fiery flames, and even go to view, I go to view more down here, I've got a whole bunch of elements that I can try to add, such as cybertech. I'm going to add that one as well, hit confirm. And now you notice we have 3 elements. So I'm going to basically come to the glitch element, bring it down to about 0.2. The fire element, I'm going to bring down to about 0.4, and I'll do the same with the cybertech element to see how it mixes these 3 sort of very different and unique styles with our image. So this is pretty full on. We'll see what results we get. And what we got here is vastly different than what we had before. We've got some glitch style elements on the shirt, a little bit of a cyber kind of like look on the person, and a few flames around him. So that is pretty cool. What I'm going to do is I can also further adjust this. I like the flames. I want to bring this down 0.1. The glitch element I'm going to bring down to 0.1, and the flames down to 0.2. So we can try and dial it down to get something closer to our original with still some of these elements in there. And now this is looking a little bit more natural and includes those elements a lot better than having them sort of overpowering the image. So you can see by choosing a preset, we can choose a base style. Choosing our preset style allows us to further pinpoint the main style of the image, and then we can mix elements in to have little elements and bits and pieces thrown into the mix to kind of like add more style to the image. And this is all done without touching our prompt. Now keep in mind, I can come up top here to this preset where it says Cinematic Kino. I can try changing it to something else. So if I change it to the anime preset and close. Now some presets don't allow you to use elements, otherwise known as LoRa's in Stable Diffusion, but anime does. So now I can keep all the same settings, hit generate, and we've been able to generate some anime style images with those elements involved too. So we've focused a lot on the features for changing style, but don't forget, you can still change your prompt. So I've got here an otherworldly being. I can put here cyberpunk. So I've got cyberpunk, zenithal astronomic necromancer, this cyberpunk ethereal figure, and I can even add at the end here, cyberpunk style. So I've really thrown the word cyberpunk in there to try and drag that style out as well. So don't forget, you can add in certain genres and phrases into your prompt, and then I've been able to affect that style. You can see the background's a bit more cyberpunk, the jacket, it's steered it towards that direction by adding that into our prompt. So between your prompt, presets, and elements, you have a lot of influence over the images that you can create. But there's still a few more tools we can use on our images as well to sort of get a bit more out of them. If I click on this image here, which I think is pretty nifty, I have a few options down here. I can upscale, as we mentioned before, but I can also remove the background. So if I click on that, I now get this little drop down over here because I can switch between the original image and no background. And you can see Leonardo AI has cut out that background, which means if I hit download, I can download a transparent PNG of this image and change the background, say in Photoshop or something else like that. But coming back to our bespeckled Slender Man, if I click on this image here, some images have these, some don't. A function called unzoom. This allows me to zoom out on the image and add some information around the image. So if I click on that, again, you'll notice a little drop down here. I click on the unzoomed image, and it's zoomed out and created more information around that image. So that's a good way if you need a little bit more space around a subject after you've made the image. If I go up, so by coming up the top here, you notice I've got my 2 anime images and all the same settings. Under advanced settings, we can actually change the model itself. So we have the anime Excel. I can change this down to Leonardo Vision XL, turn on Photo Real to create photorealistic images, and I can even generate with a transparency. If I want to, I can turn this on and create like a tiling pattern. If you know what a seed is, it's kind of like the starting point in the image. You can add a number in here, and that way you should basically generate pretty much the same image each time with minor differences. Not really useful for most people unless you're trying to get this exact same image and make a small difference. But I can also type in a negative prompt. And what I can type in is something like, if I don't want teeth to be in the image. It doesn't work perfect every time, but it does help the AI to realize that you don't want teeth in your image. So I've turned on Photo Real, changed the model. I've got a transparency, so it should have a transparent background, and a negative prompt to remove the teeth. But before I go through with it, I'm going to actually get rid of these loras. Something nice and simple. We've removed teeth, a vector image of a cyberpunk skull. Flat colors, simple design, because the transparency works a lot better with a simple design. Now, first I'm going to turn on Photo Real, but I'll leave the transparency off to see what we get, despite the fact we've typed in vector image. And while that's generating, I'm going to turn off Photo Real, turn on transparency. And that's handy because you can actually queue up your generations. You don't have to do them one by one. You can queue them up, walk away, and come back to see what Leonardo AI has generated for you. So with Photo Real, it's added a lot more photorealistic elements, but added in a vector design at the front, which is pretty interesting. So adding in those conflicting terms has really helped create something a little bit more unique using Photo Real. But here we have our skull with a transparent background. If I download this as a PNG, it has a completely transparent background. And I'll actually overlay it over the video right now so you can see what I mean. So you can actually generate images with transparent backgrounds natively, or you can just remove the background later, which is pretty handy. But otherwise, that gives you an idea of the settings of the image generator, how to set up your prompt, choosing different styles with your presets, with your elements, and just touching on some of these other options so you know what's available to you. Now, the good thing about this is when you're done generating your images, you can exit the image generator, head into your personal feed, and all the images you have generated are here. If you have a pro account, you can actually select a whole bunch of these and download them in bulk. Not available for free, unfortunately, but you can come back and find any of these images at a later date and do more to them. I've clicked on this. I've only got my original here. I can choose an Alchemy Smooth upscale. I can edit in Canvas, which is another thing we're going to touch on. Remove the background. I have all these options here to get my upscale. I can remix, so bring this back into the image creator. I can create a video here. I can copy the prompt, see all the settings, and it's pretty powerful. Or even more, if I come right down to a really old image, like this samurai image here, I hit remix. It puts all of the settings of that here. The prompt, I can literally hit generate, and I can generate again and pick up where I left off. So that should give you everything you need to get started creating images using Leonardo AI. And there's a link in the description if you haven't signed up yet. Otherwise, I've got more coming, and there's a playlist in the description if you want to dive a little deeper. So that's the video for today. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider giving it a like. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.